Well, good morning, good Friday morning to everybody. I got another friendly Friday safety tip for you. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Team Rubicon. If you haven't heard of Team Rubicon, they are a disaster relief organization that kind of culminated at the Haiti earthquake that came around, and there's a pretty unique story behind that. So if you get bored and you want to Google Team Rubicon, go check them out. Amazing organization. And really what this video is about is kind of their mentality of being in the field and how they work and how disaster responders work and firemen and policemen work. And so it ties in the safety from the standpoint of acceptable risk. You know, I continue to talk about elimination of hazard. I've talked about doing assessments to remove items. We've talked about being proactive or doing a root cause analysis for near misses and different things like that. But what I wanted to talk about is obviously safety people understand that there is an inherent amount of risk in certain operations. If I climb up on a ladder, even though I have the ladder tied off and I'm maintaining 3 points of contact going up that ladder, there's still an inherent risk that I could fall off that ladder, that my foot could misstep, that my hand could misstep, whatever the situation may be, there's a risk that I'm going to fall off that ladder, right? If I'm operating heavy equipment, a backhoe, a track hoe, an excavator of any kind, any type of leveling equipment, any type of hoppers, tree trimming equipment, bucket trucks, whatever it is, there's an inherent amount of risk in operating that equipment. And so what I wanted to just kind of mention this week was, don't get so caught up in risk elimination that you forget there's a certain inherent amount of risk. Now, that's not to say, that's not to say that you shouldn't be eliminating risk. That's not to say you shouldn't be evaluating the risk, finding ways to make it lesser risk or zero risk whenever possible. But understand that there's certain things that are an inherent amount of risk. And back in the day, people would come to me and say, well, it's a safety concern. And that's how they would start the conversation. And 9 times out of 10, what it really boiled down to is, yeah, there were some hazards in the work that needed to be done, but the work still had to be done. You just had to follow the proper precautions in order to get the job done. And really what they were looking for is, oh, that's too dangerous, let's not do it anymore. Well, you know what? I understand that having to change out a pump inside of a sanitary sewer pit is not necessarily the most pleasant job, but we have provided you with the right tools and equipment to do the job in the safest manner possible. So all of that to mean is certain jobs, certain operations are going to have an inherent amount of risk. And it's your job as a safety professional or risk management professional to weigh that risk and see what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Sending a guy up in an emergent situation in a bucket truck without wearing a harness or anything on, that's not an acceptable amount of risk. Having a guy work a live line and not wearing all of his PPE, rubber gloves, his sleeves, everything else, is not an acceptable risk. However, having somebody work on the electrical utility lines that we have to have while they are live sometimes has to be an acceptable risk because we blanket off the area, we're wearing the right PPE, we've done all of the things that we can do to make it as safe as possible. And the reality is there is going to be some risk to that. So again, eliminate risk whenever possible, mitigate hazards whenever possible, substitute items in whenever you can. But the reality is you need to weigh what's an inherent acceptable amount of risk in certain situations, because the reality of the world is there's risk. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend. I look forward to seeing you guys all next week. And hit subscribe on YouTube if you like the videos, or just connect with me on LinkedIn here, and I'll be happy to chit chat about anything. Have a great day.